Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on GT Sport. We're at round 1 of the pre-season manufacturers FIA Championship and it's at Dragon Trail. We're driving the Ferrari 458 GT4, GR4 sorry, and as you can see there, we're in our qualifying lap. This was our lap before, obviously just before the race started. We were P4, we hadn't really hooked up a lap. I decided to do a risky strategy of obviously just doing one base lap and then going in the pits and then putting the fresh tyres on. As you can see there, that car nearly ruined this lap, but he just about ended his lap just in time and got himself off the screen, and we managed to carry on. We did lose a little bit of time in the first sector and we didn't hook up the first corner. You can see there was about 2-3 tenths of what I should have really been hitting there in this qualifying, but I was reasonably happy. You know, this car wasn't the strongest car at this track, but it was by no means the worst car. It was a reasonably, you know, it had a lot of grip, so it had a lot of ability to get on the power really early, so I did enjoy driving it. And this track also is not my strongest track, as I've said it before. This is probably, you know, I'm starting to feel the rhythm of the track now, and I can feel where I can start getting faster, so hopefully we can start doing a little bit faster times. We did get our session down in the obviously the pre-race qualifying that you do, the practice qualifying, to a 44.6. It wasn't perfect, but it was definitely an improvement from what I was able to do a while ago, so reasonably happy with that. And as you can see there, we're doing a reasonable lap at this point. We're hooking up the corners, we're taking good speed through the corners. It's not been a perfect lap, but it's been an acceptable lap as we go through to the final corner. I was able to brake really late in this Ferrari going into this final corner, pretty much braking on the 100 board and then getting on the power reasonably well as we come out that exit. We're looking like we're going to go through over the line on a reasonably good lap. You can see there it's going to be fairly close to a 45.3, could have been better, but it puts us to P1, which was really great. We decided to run a 9 o'clock race, but for half tactical and half the fact that I didn't have time to just get back on and practice. You know, I did that when I did my review of the car, that we did an hour or so practicing them, and then I hadn't been back on since, so I had 45 minutes before the race to do it. That's one of the reasons why I did 9 o'clock race, and also I just wouldn't have had time to get on for the 8 o'clock race. So this was reasonably competitive. Quite a few of A plus drivers in there. I think there was like 8 or so, or 8, 9 or so A plus drivers. We're starting P1 there. Oscar Raukins, I think it's pronounced, starting P2 there. You got BMW and P3. Another thing I wanted to say on this video just before we get into races, I think some people misunderstood what I'm trying to say about the counter steer assist. With regards to pad users, I have no issue with these guys that are using counter steer on the pad, because that's what it's there for pad users. My issue is, even on wheel users, I don't mind wheel users using it. I think what my issue is the fact that it makes you faster. I don't mind if it's equal. If it was 100% equal and there was no advantage in terms of lap time, I would have no issue with anyone using it. It's just that there is an advantage in terms of lap time, and it's getting to a situation where I think they just need to do something just to make sure that it's 100% equal. You know, I don't want to feel like I have to use that assist, and I'm not going to use it. But I understand that a lot of pad users, if I was on the pad, I would use it, because it is a tricky game on the pad. I do know that. Obviously, it does help a lot with the pad. So pad users 100%, yeah. It's just my issue is with the top players that are using it just to gain that final few tenths in qualifying, etc., and obviously to preserve the tyres. I feel that's an unfair advantage. That's the only issue I have with counter steer assist. It's not with the actual assist being in the game, which I think some people are mistaking what I'm saying for. So just to clear that up before we start this race, I just wanted to get that out there and make sure people understand that my issue is with, you know, it being a little bit too fast whilst having that assist on, and it's just gaining an unfair advantage in my view. Anyway, so let's get on with this race. We're starting in P1. We're going to jump through to the TV replay cameras for the start of the race. As you can see there, I've decided for the replay cameras to leave the information on for the players and the lap we're on. The only thing I wish we could change would be the lap delta in the middle of the screen and the track map. I wish we could remove that, but there is no option on GT Sport, so I decided to keep it on for this video. I want to see what you guys think. I think it's just quite a nice idea, just so you can see all the players, what position they're in, etc., the lap number, just so we don't get confused where we are when we're commentating and also when you're watching. So you can see there, starting the race, we got a reasonably good start. But one thing I do tend to do recently is, at the start of the race, is rev the engine a bit, keep the engine revving, and it enables the car to pull away a little bit better, and it gives me a little bit of an advantage on the straight. I've noticed I've been doing it. I don't want to tell other people about it. I want other people to know about this. It just seems to make a fairer start, because starting from P1 you do have the issue where you kind of get swamped at the start. So I've started to rev it a bit, and it does definitely make you get off the line just that little bit faster when the computer takes over. So just try it. Sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes I've noticed that it'll get you in a higher gear also with certain cars. Sometimes if you don't do it, you stay in first gear, and then sometimes when you do it, you get into second gear. So just try it out and see what you guys think. I definitely think there's an advantage to doing it, so that's why I do it. As you can see there on lap 1, the action's really close at this stage. You can see everyone got through that first lap without much incident, as you can see through this first section, this first lap. It looks fairly clean, not much going on. It seems pretty much everyone's in a line and driving reasonably cleanly. We've got a BMW behind us. He managed to overtake that Lamborghini, which was really important. I felt like I could hold the BMW off a little bit easier than what I could hold off the Lamborghini. Obviously that Lamborghini's got quite good straight line speed in the GR4, so it was quite nice to have that little buffer with the BMW behind me. As I'm just trying to keep it consistent. You can see there, going through the last corner, I do love the sound this Ferrari makes. It sounds so good when you listen to it, and it's one of the benefits of driving this car. I think it's going to be a good all-round car. I don't think it'll have a particular weak track, but I don't think it'll have a particular strong track. So it's just a case of, in the GR4 races, trying to build up some consistent points and just get the points we could. Obviously, like I say, I chose this race because I knew this track was one of my weaker tracks. I couldn't get onto a gone 8 o'clock anyway, so for me this was the best opportunity to just get on 9 o'clock. I know there's still going to be competition in there obviously as well. At the moment we couldn't do the 8 o'clock race anyway because we're not even an A+ rated, because when we got all that DR took off us from one race, we're verging on getting it back, but I need to get that back before I go onto the popular rate, the time slots, because otherwise I won't be in the top split and we won't get the points we need. So for the moment I've got to decide, be quite tactical with how I build these points back up. Once we're back up to the top, we'll do obviously the 7 or 8 PM races. Hopefully Saturday we'll be able to do the peak one, because we're going to be in a situation where we've built up a lot more DR by then hopefully. So it's on its way back up, and you can see there we're driving on board. I'm messing around with the cameras again on this video. You can see we're back with the main view from my view, and we got the two alternative views, the TV replay and the guy behind me on the left hand side there. So you can see we're managing to hold this P1. We're driving really well. I was really nervous about this track because of this corner here. The Ferrari bounces a lot on that curb and it makes you go really close to the wall, but I didn't have much time to practice. That was another thing, so I was really surprised that I got that pole position, to be brutally honest. I mean, the competition wasn't the strongest in this race, that is one thing, but still, to get pole position, that's what matters. There was 8+ rated drivers in here, like 8 or 9 of them, and it was still going to be, if I could hold on to this position, it was going to be a good haul of points for this first race. As you can see there, I'm starting to go a little bit defensive. Let's just ride on board with the guy behind. As I went to go over to the right, I decided to just go back over to the left, make sure that I've got the line, and I could see that he was too far back to really start worrying about that slipstream. Going into the braking zone, trying to make sure we hit our braking point. You can see I was having to be quite cautious compared to other cars on that curb. I found if I hit that curb quite aggressively on the first part of the apex, it would unsettle the car quite a lot and it would start understeering. Because the car's got a lot of grip, it tended to just understeer in situations like that rather than oversteer. So I had to be careful. You can see this is a corner I was really able to get on the power early. Watch how early I can get on the power. And I start pulling away on this section of track quite often compared to the other cars in the race. Also, you will notice that I wasn't really worrying about fuel conservation. What I wanted to do in this race was, again, like Brands Hatch, just try and push reasonably hard. And I was doing a little bit of short shifting on the odd lap, not really maximising the revs, which will help this Ferrari out. It's a little bit faster when you rev it right through to the end. But I was trying to do a little bit of short shifting and just trying to preserve fuel that way rather than worrying about the fuel mixture. I wanted the pace to be fast, because in general, when you start driving fast, cars that want to do the fuel saving will lose out a bit. So the guy behind me in the BMW, obviously that car now isn't as strong at fuel saving as it used to be. I think they changed it in the patch. So I knew if I kept aggressive, he would start struggling with the fuel compared to myself and the Ferrari. And obviously we've got the Lamborghini behind, which is looking like he's able to save a bit of fuel because he's in the slipstream, and he's probably doing a bit of fuel saving behind that BMW. But as long as I keep the pace quite strong and quite fast, I felt like it would kind of make the guys that are doing the extreme fuel saving to gain place in the pits too far back to really gain too much of a position. So that was the strategy. And like I say at the Brands Hatch, I do like driving where I can just concentrate on just driving as well as I can without having to worry about the fuel. And for this race, I felt like it was a good idea. I actually think that the tyres on my Ferrari didn't seem to wear at all on this on the GR4 Ferrari. They seemed really good at preserving. So I feel like at the pit stop I did change tyres, obviously, in the pit stop, but I felt like at this stage I was tempted. I was thinking, do I risk it? Because I didn't have a chance to do any test runs of this race or nothing like that. I know a lot of people, I'm guessing a lot of the people that were doing these races have done a lot of testing, practicing and stuff, but obviously I've been doing a lot of videos, uploading and stuff. By the time I get them done, I don't get on like as much as I'd like to do the practicing, but I started to think, we've done 4 laps and the tyres look really nice, they look fresh, they feel nice. I wasn't feeling any issues with the tyres. This 458 GR4 really grips well. It feels like you're planted to the floor really well in this car. The only issue I have is, like I said before, with the understeers. You can see there, the BMW just got overtaken by the Lamborghini Huracan, which was a little bit of an issue for me. I've seen that happen, and I was getting a little. I thought this is going to be a little bit harder now, because I felt like that Lamborghini was fuel saving, and then he was going to go aggressive. So that was one thing I needed to start taking into factor about how was he going to start pushing really hard? Was he going to make me push? So I was just basically thinking, I've got to keep it calm, keep concentrating on these corners, making sure I'm not making any stupid mistakes. And again, we get through that last corner. I seem to be able to gain a little bit on that last corner because of the grip in this Ferrari. It's got, like I said, a lot of cars struggle on putting the power down on some of these corners, whereas the Ferrari just feels like you can just nail it straight down, and it just grips and bites. So I was able to get really strong exits from the corners, which then was giving me reasonably good speeds down the end of the straights compared to some of the other cars, because although it's not the fastest accelerating car in the GR4 class, we've got the Dodge Viper and stuff like that, which would be really strong on tracks like this, and a few other cars that are really strong on tracks like this, like the Mercedes as well. I think it's fairly strong. But like I said, we just seemed to be getting that little bit of extra pull out the corners, which was then giving us a slightly good top end speed. So it was one real good positive to take from this car. As you can see there, we're maintaining that gap around 1.4 seconds, driving really well. I think at this stage I was driving really well. I was really happy with how this race was going so far. We ran a little bit wide there. I had to give it a brief little lift. You see how I give that little brief lift mid-apex, because if I didn't, I felt like I'd be risking it on the curb. So I did that for safety. He actually caught up about 310 through that little error I made, but that was the first major error I've made on the race so far, which, considering the lack of practice, I was really happy about. I really enjoy driving this car, I have to say. Although it's not the most outright speed for this track, it's just such an enjoyable car to drive, listening to the engine, pushing it through the corners. It's a handling that suits me again. It's got a lot of base grip, so I can get on the power nice and early, so it does suit me. So I'm looking forward to driving this at other tracks to see what it's going to be like. I'm not too sure how competitive it's going to be at other tracks like Bathurst, with obviously the 2 long straights. It'll be interesting, because I feel like it'll be really strong through the middle section going on the downhill with how stable the car is, but then on the speed parts it's going to be not as strong as other cars. So we're going to go back onto the TV replay cameras now and watch the action as we're maintaining that P1 position. Not amazing laps. We've done a 45.9 at the moment, but like I say, I'm doing some short shifting. I'm not really driving 100% aggressive. I'm driving obviously one mixture. We're just trying to, you can see how much respect I'm giving the curbs compared to other cars. I'm having to really be respectful on that first curb, which loses me a fair amount in the first sector. I was noticing the cars tended to gain like 3 or 4 tenths on me in just the first sector. And obviously just before the end of the first sector, though, I was gaining a bit back just going up this hill. Now I was able to get the power down really well there, so I was clawing a bit back there, but I was losing a bit on turn 1. So maybe I need to work on that turn 1 to start getting the lap together, because that seems to be a really important turn to get your lap hooked up. These corners, I felt like I got these pretty well. I was able to take them in 5th gear and just keep my foot planted, and I was able to really carry a lot of speed through there. So I'd recently done that. I was going down to 4th gear, and then I just tried to stay in 5th gear, just lifting off really early and trying to bite it into the apex. It really did help this Ferrari. As you can see there, coming into the braking zones, we've got quite close action still in this race. You can see P1, 2 and 3 seem really close together. And, we're on lap 6 of 12. We're coming up to the pit stop phase. We're going to be going in the pits very soon on this lap, at the end of this lap. As you can see there, look in the distance there, we've got real close driving. I've got to keep on it. One mistake through this really scary chicane, it scares me every time it gets that. I panic. I think to myself, if I just clip that wall, it will end the race. So I do like this track, I have to admit. It's such a nice flow to the track. I feel that once I've got the hang of this track, the more I'll start enjoying it and getting my pace up. But at the moment, obviously it's new. These not real tracks, something new to me. I've not done much racing on these, so We're into the pits. You can see we had 17% fuel. The other guys have done a little bit more fuel saving than me, obviously, which I had no issue with. I wanted to keep the pace strong, and we actually built up a bit of a lead before we went in the pits. As you can see there, the Lamborghini. Let's have a little look at the screen as we both come out the pits. As I fill it up pretty much dead on the diamond. I know I can do that. We come out the pits and we're just in front of that Lamborghini still. So luckily for us, we managed to hold on to that lead over the Lamborghini. But there's some drivers now just ahead of me that are going to be struggling with obviously tyre wear, and obviously not as fast as what we are. And he's come out right in front of me. I was really nervous about this because I needed to get like a lead up straight away, because I felt like if I could just go for it straight away, I could build the lead up. We managed to pull away from the Lamborghini straight away coming out the pitch. You can see we built up a little bit of a gap straight away. I started flashing him there. You can see I flashed him just to let him know I'm behind him, and he's on a different strategy to me. And I was probably over flashing him because I was just getting really nervous with that Lamborghini behind me. And I have to apologise to that driver in front of me if I was a little bit aggressive with the flashing of lights. It was just because I was in that moment where you just want to let him know that I'm going to be in a faster situation with a faster car. Tyres are going to be in better condition, so I didn't want to surprise him. I wanted to make sure he knew I was there, you know, see me in the mirrors, and it's just something I like to do just so that they know I'm there and that I might make a move if I get a chance. As you can see there, this is the place I did not want to catch him up. You can see I'd actually built up a 7/10 lead to the Lamborghini, but then this is a section where I need to stay on it, and he's really in my way now. This was starting to stress me out a bit. You can see me looking to see if I was going to make a move. There's nowhere I can make a move through here, so I'm stuck behind this guy. You can see the Lamborghini's going to start slowing down. I actually had a little moment there where I'm trying to find a way past, and the Lamborghini's starting to catch up quite drastically there now. He's actually caught right back up to me. He's under 5/10 behind me, and that was not what I wanted. That car getting in my way there, it messed up my outlap. But like I say, these things happen in racing. You can't do anything about it. He's obviously doing his own race. He's got people he's racing, and I respected that. Obviously I was flashing him, but that was more to do with letting him know that I was close, and I don't know if he even knew I was there going through that fast chicane, so I'm not too sure. But it was a real nervous moment. As you can see, that Lexus has got in on this action now as well. The really fast Lexus down the straights, which I did not want that car anywhere near the rear of my car. So I really had to start putting some lap times in. You can see the Lamborghini's got really close to me now coming out this corner. He's having a little look on the inside. Luckily, I got on the power reasonably well and managed to hold that line off. So you can see he's still right behind me. Look how close this action is still now after 7 laps. Everyone is really close and driving really well. As the Lamborghini takes quite a lot off that curb, we got on the power reasonably well, and we built a little bit of a cushion going into these really fast corners. This is a set of corners. If I hook up, I felt like I had a bit of an advantage over the Lamborghini. Not too sure about the Lexus. I still have never driven the Lexus in the GR4 class. I just know it's an extremely fast car on the straight. So you can see going up the hill, I felt like I was going to have to go a bit defensive now with how close that Lamborghini was. You know, he pretty much close enough to make a dive down the inside, so I put my car into the middle of the track. That covers off the position. I could see that he was too far back. I braked really late. One thing I do like again about this Ferrari is that you can brake really late with it, and that really does help you out in the defensive situations. You can see now, look how close this action is as we all go through this fast section. You know, one mistake could wipe us all out if it doesn't go to the car, so I was really concentrating on trying to keep it clean. As you see, the Lamborghini went in too strong there. He clips the wall as he got the car going sideways, and that gives me a little bit of a cushion now going on to the back to the final straight, which was really important. He was getting really close there. If without that, he could have been close to making a move, and it was really important that we got through that corner nice and tidy and enabled to get down this straight without anyone writing our slipstream. As you can see, I really pushed on the final corner as well because I wanted to lose the slipstream, which would make it harder for them to get closer to me. So you can see again, we go over the line. Not a particularly great lap, obviously we've got a bit of defending in that lap, and concentrating on the guy behind. I was doing a lot of looking in the mirror, seeing where he was. I made the mistake on turn 1, which made him get that close to me, and now I've just got to try and put some decent lap times down now and concentrate on consistency. You can see we're just over a second ahead. I've built up a little bit of a lead. You know, obviously we're not pushing the cars fully. You know, I feel like I didn't feel confident enough to really drive this track 100% aggressive, and that's where I need to start getting a bit more confidence in this track. But I'm at this point, I'm so happy with how this race is going. We're in P1 at a track that is not my favourite in terms of speed. I do like the layout, I like the flow of the track. It's not one of my strong tracks. So to be in this situation where we're leading this race against a lot of A+ drivers, it feels really nice, and I was really happy at the way it was going so far. You can see there we've now got about a 1.5 second lead to the guy behind, so we've done really well to get rid of that slipstream, and I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with this car at this track. It's definitely a nice car. I don't know what tracks this car is going to suit. I've never driven it before. Like I say, this is my first ever proper race in this. We did do one race at Brands Hatch, but that was a bit of a mess, so I don't know if it's a glass that. But like I say, at this track, I felt comfortable with it. I don't think it's ultimate pace wise, but what's really good is when you feel comfortable with a car and you're able to just drive it consistently without feeling like you're going to crash. If you feel nervous driving a car, it tends to make things a little bit more risky and you don't tend to drive as smoothly. So you can see there, we're going over the line at the end of lap 9 and we've still got that 1.4 second lead. I felt like without that guy holding us up, we could have been a little bit further ahead, but he obviously brought us all back together. As you can see there, 4 cars really close together. It looks like someone actually got the jump on them, someone in the pits. Yeah, you can see in the distance we've got another car just got ahead. It looks like a Toyota 86. Let's just have a little look as it goes through. It could be a Toyota 86, so I'm not too sure, but you can see there the Lexus has managed to be jumped by someone, but we've got 4 cars after 9 full laps that are within probably, maybe it looks like about a 3-4 second gap. So you can see this race is really intense, and I have to tell you, I was really nervous driving at this point. I was sweating, my hands were, you know, my steering wheel rim is already worn out a lot on the steering wheel, so there's not much grip on it, so I was literally clammy hands and starting to, you know, feel the bit of pressure. And yeah, I know it's only a game, but with it being the FIA pre-season, it's the first proper, like, I think a lot of people have taken it serious this season. There you can see a lot of the big names are back on the leaderboard and people are trying to take this serious. So with the fact that I hadn't had much practice and I was in the lead of this race, it was really nervous. You know, I didn't want to let anyone down by making a stupid mistake, you know, and having to upload a video where I'm making a stupid error. So the nerves were really hitting me at this point. You can see I'm just trying to keep it consistent. We've managed to stay in the lead all the way through to this point, and we're driving really nice. You can still see I'm pushing through that chicane because I can't risk lifting off too much through there. Sometimes I was having to give it a fraction of a lift, but I couldn't afford to do any massive errors there, because one error, he would be right back in our slipstream. And you know, he's an Oscaro driver, he's going to be a fast driver. He's not the one that took me out at Monza, thankfully. This guy seemed to have a lot more racecraft. You could see going into that tight corner where he had a chance to make a dive bomb, he didn't do it. He stayed wide and tried to get a better exit. So I felt more confident with him being behind me anyway. He seemed like a really clean driver, so it was an enjoyable race. Racing Oscaro around, I think it is, I'm not too sure how you pronounce it, but we go over the line, another 1 minute 45. Again, we're not driving as fast as what I would have liked, but you know, it's consistency that matters, and I think I did a really good choice in picking this 9 PM race. You know, the competition wasn't quite as strong. I felt like if I would have gone for the top, if I would have been in that 8 o'clock race or 7 o'clock race, we would have struggled to get a top 10 position, and you know, the points might have been similar because it would have been higher rated, but I don't think we would have got into that main race. The issue was, with not being an A+ rated driver, we might have fell short of the top split and ended up dropping down with just 8 drivers, and then we would have come away with 1,000 points, which would not have been what I wanted. So at the moment we made a wise decision, I feel. So you can see at the point now, coming into the end of lap 11, we're going to go back on board with the action as we come through to the final laps now, and this is the real nervous point. We've got the gap around 1.2, 1.1 seconds. You know, he has caught up a bit. It's all to do with the way we're both, you know, obviously I've just kept the pace constant. He's obviously been doing a bit of fuel saving, then going to the full fuel. I'm not too sure what that Lamborghini's like with its fuel. I have no idea. The Ferrari seemed okay, you know, considering it wasn't really doing any fuel saving other than doing a bit of short shifting and not really extending the revs as much as I could have done. It felt okay, so not too bad in terms of the fuel consumption. I don't know what it would be like if I went down the fuel mixtures in terms of how it holds its pace. That's a totally different issue, but I think the best way to do it with this car would just be keep it in one mixture and just do a bit of short shifting and just drive it aggressive and go for the strategy where you push it hard. I tend to be doing better and driving better when I'm doing that. I've noticed that Brands Hatch I drove better. This race I'm driving better, so it's a tactic I think I need to start concentrating on more as we're going into the final lap now, and I do not want to make any errors on this lap. So you're going to see me drive a little bit cautious. I know I've got a second lead there, he's in the slipstream. However, for him to get past me in one lap and gain a second, it's got to be through a mistake that I make. So I wanted to make sure I hook up the corners. I don't want to push too hard that I can risk making an error. Going into this right hand corner, I know that my car's fairly strong through here, so again, we didn't get on the power as early as I could have done, but I just wanted to make sure I keep it clean. That is the aim of this lap now. I don't want to make a silly error and lose this lead on the final lap. I feel like I've done a really good job in this race, and I don't want to make it a daft error. So you're going to see taking it. I'm driving like 98%. I'm not using that final 2% because I don't want to make any silly errors. So you can see going into this corner now. This is the corner where these corners up here is the only real risk for me on this track in terms of where you will bin it. So this is where, coming through to the final time, the nerves were kicking in, and I could really start feeling a little bit of the tension. I didn't want to make an error on this final lap going into the chicane, so I have to push, though I can't take it too easy. You can see I don't drive 100% aggressive. I give it a little bit of space, and we pretty much nailed that corner. And now at this point I felt really happy because I know how stable my car is on the final corner. So going into the final corner, we're going to brake just before the 100, take a nice tight line to the corner, and this is the final corner of the race. We go round that final corner. We're still in the lead. We're going to put the power down. We've got plenty of fuel left, and we're going to go over to the right hand side to take that checkered flag. I was really happy at this point. I have to say, I was a little shout out as I went over the line. The missus probably jumped up and panicked, as I was really happy with that performance and my race in general. Obviously not the fastest performance in terms of overall speed, but I still got the win, and that's what's really important. So some solid points in this race. I think we ended with over 2,000 or something like that. So the competition was okay. It wasn't as strong as it could have been. We didn't have the strongest car, but we've maximised our performance at a track that's not going to be our strongest. So let's have a little look there as we take the victory celebration on the podium there with our car. Really happy with my first ever proper race in the Ferrari. I do like this GR4. The GR3 is going to be a different story. It's going to be a harder car to drive, so that's going to take a bit of practice. I think I will need to get a bit more practice in that car. But you can see there, 2,034 points. That's not a bad haul of points, so I was happy with that, and it puts us in a reasonable position so far. I think we're 23rd in the world rankings for Europe, so you can see there P23 and second in the manufacturers, so we're doing okay, and it's a solid start to the pre-season championship. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed that video. I really enjoyed racing in that race. It was a fun race. I know it wasn't really in terms of cars in front of me, but it was really nervous to be involved with, having them cars really pushing me hard. So hopefully we can have another good race in the next round. The next track is a really strong track for me, but I've never driven this GR3, so it's going to be a learning experience, and hopefully we can put a solid performance in and get some more solid points. Anyway guys, thanks again for watching this video. We'll be back with more GT Sport very soon, and more Project Cars and more Assetto Corsa. Thanks again everyone.